And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
One of the first games that I played when getting into what I would say the modern board game era, for me anyway, was Kill Dr. Lucky. The company that released it at the time released it in a really no-frills package, just a few cards, and there wasn't really much else added. You had to put the board together. It was kind of a really low-quality production, but I was willing to suck that up. The gameplay was actually pretty fun, but there was a few problems I didn't like about the game, and I never really got over the lack of quality. Well, lo and behold, what does Titanic Games do? They come out with Kill Dr. Lucky, the Deluxe Edition. Now, you can tell already by the size of the box that this is certainly a deluxe edition, but look at the size of the pawns. These are the wooden pawns that come with the game. They're huge, huge. And there's also these wooden spite tokens that come, also nice and chunky tokens here. But the board itself shows the mansion here, and this is kind of a prequel to the famous game Clue. Here's Dr. Lucky, and this man during the game is going to move around in a prescribed format following different numbered rooms, and he's dotting around. He's some old man, and the problem is you don't like him. You want him dead. Interestingly enough, so does everybody else in the game. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to get together with Dr. Lucky in a room so that you can kill him. So for example, here I am in the dining hall. I want to try and kill Dr. Lucky. The problem is I can't kill him if anyone's watching. This guy here is in the room next door. There's an open door. He can see. This guy here is in the gallery. He can look over the wall, and he can see me. Now, if they weren't in these rooms, and I can look around and say, hey, no one can see me, at that point, I can try to kill Dr. Lucky. You can do it by just saying I'm going to kill him, basically with your bare hands, or you can use a weapon. For example, here's a silken cord card, and that's a murder value of 3. Now, that's where the fun of the game starts. I mean, first of all, the one part of the game basically is you're maneuvering yourself around, trying to get to where Dr. Lucky is going to be, trying to get into that room alone with him where no one else will see. But then it's time to play these murder cards, and then all the other players, one after another, have a chance to play failure cards. These failure cards need to add up with this number in the corner over here, this 1, or 2 or 3, need to add up to the number of your murder attempt, which is your murder weapon. And players can decide not to play failure cards, forcing other people to play failure cards, and they're just basically stopping you, because if they don't, you win the game. Now, these failure cards, I think, are funny. They have quotes on them like, suddenly a pause, a thought, a shudder. Did you leave the iron on? This one says, the doctor turns to you and asks you for the time. You're distracted. And this one just says, you're stupid, stupid, stupid. Okay, and that kind of adds a bit of humor to the game. You're playing these cards and other people, and usually we read the reasons aloud, why you failed to kill Dr. Lucky. He just bent down to pick up a penny or something like that. Now, if you fail to kill Dr. Lucky, then you get a spite token. These spite tokens do 2 things. In an emergency, you can spend them, if you don't have any failure cards, to stop other people from getting Dr. Lucky. Or, if you have them in your possession, for example, let's say I have 2 like I have right here, then all my murder attempts in the future are +2. So if you continually try and kill Dr. Lucky and fail, eventually you can do it because you'll have so many of these spite tokens that you'll be too powerful that other players can't play enough failure cards. Lots of fun. There's a big deck of cards. You're drawing from that deck most of the turns of the game, and you'll be getting weapons, you'll be getting failure cards, and you'll be getting movement cards, which let you jump to a room, or they let you move additional distances. Otherwise, you just move 1, and everyone's running all over the house trying to either catch Dr. Lucky or wait into a spot in which he will come. And if Dr. Lucky does come in a room where you are, then it's your turn, even if you weren't the next person to go. So there's a little bit interesting things there where you can keep moving ahead of Dr. Lucky for a few turns, and he keeps following you, and it's your turn time and time and time again. I don't know. I really enjoyed that part of the game. The breakdown of the game happens in that you can have one person refuse to play these failure cards. Then the next person refuses to play them. Then the next person refuses to play them. The last person, he has to play them, but if he doesn't have enough, then the person who tries to kill Dr. Lucky wins. So if you play with some real idiots, people who refuse to play these ever, you'll have some problems. Now, there is certainly some strategy to not always playing them. If you know the person after, you can handle it. But if the murder attempt is 7 and you refuse to play anything, well, when you lose the game, I don't know, that just seems to be kind of almost selfish, and a few people like that can break down the game. That was my problem with the original game, or one of my problems, and it's still here. However, the spite tokens do help a lot. The spite tokens also helped one of my original criticisms, which was this was the game that never ends. And these really increase the game. The game will finish now because of these. Also, as a deck goes through, failure cards are, when they're used, they are out of the game, while the weapon cards keep coming up and coming up. And so eventually, the old fellow is gonna bite it. And my other criticism about the original game, that the pieces weren't that great, well, that's definitely gone. I mean, this stuff is great. Now, the theme itself for families, I don't know. I mean, Clue, you're trying to find out who the murderer was. Here, you're trying to murder Dr. Lucky, and I realize that perhaps that won't go over well with families, even though this seems to be kind of a family game. It can go up to 7 players, and it's a lot of fun. But you could just say you're trying to capture Dr. Lucky or whatever, if that's a problem, although it might be hard to explain how you're capturing him with a letter opener. But I don't know. I mean, I think it's very light. There's no blood and guts and gore and stuff, so I think families will still have no problem with it. Now, there is an expansion, a very small expansion. It's Kill Dr. Lucky and His Little Dog, too. And it comes with a little dog piece. And actually, this game, which comes with a few variants, there's 3 variants with there. And one of them is the dog moves around, and he is basically stopping people from killing Dr. Lucky, barking and warning him. And in the other, and you can kill the dog and get rid of the dog. Or the other one is the dog is helping you, okay, as he gets angrier and angrier, and whenever someone tries to kill the dog, and you have to scratch behind his ears. I don't know. It's more of a entertaining edition than anything great. I mean, usually we play the game with it just because we want to say, kill Dr. Lucky and His Little Dog too, or in our best editions. But I'm telling you, great board work, great game, fun times. Still has that problem with, and there's some people that I'll never play the game with. It still runs maybe a little long, but I mean, an hour is the longest I've ever seen the game take, and I don't mind if you get with a group of people and they're laughing and joking about how they're trying to get this old man and how he just keeps eluding us. It can be really a lot of fun. So with the right people, it's a great game. You throw in a bad apple and the game kind of falls apart. But either way, fantastic component quality. Titanic did a good job on one of their first games.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.